Yeah, and then if you want, Brooke, we could right after that we could talk about Gaza, and then we'll be done.
Yes, that'd be fine. Yeah,
And
thank
I
you.
just broke my headphones. Damn it.
Oh,
Yeah, they just broke. Damn. And I have no Gorilla Glue. So anyway, go ahead.
I'd like to welcome everyone back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with the panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. And today we are going to discuss ICE and what ICE is doing in the United States and the amount of concern and fear they are causing, such as to individuals in the United States who are showing up for their regularly scheduled appointments, including to take their citizenship exams, or people are being told that there's a question about their passports or some sort of other question, and would they come in and have a meeting, and they come in to have a meeting, and then they are put in handcuffs and detained and removed and told that no, actually you're being deported, which I think, wouldn't that be illegal, Mark? Because that's under false pretenses that you're being lied to by the government.
Well, the police can lie to you.
Yeah, but
they do all the time, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. That was decided by the police can lie to you.
The whole prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thing is based on why. Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't be able to use that principle if they couldn't lie to you. So, I mean, I know that's very controversial. But
my aunt's first husband, by the way, Albert Shama, was one of the co-developers of the Prisoner's Dilemma, along with Anatole Rappaport. Albert Shama was one of. They did a lot of tit for tat game theory, and de-escalation is the only way to win that particular.
Or not play.
Yeah, the arms race, for example. The only way to win that is to de-escalate, as I understand it. In any event, I remember Albert, who was from Lebanon, by the way, from when I was very little. But in any event, so that means that ICE can lie, and they can say you're coming in, or a person can show up for a regularly scheduled appointment doing what they are required to do by law, and then which is very often how people are being found, is they show up for a regular appointment for their regular check-in with ICE, and then and that's how a lot of these kids are American citizen kids. They're with their mother, and then the children get deported.
I think you're putting two different things together here.
I am.
Probably when they're showing up to immigration.
Yeah.
For the regular appointment, that's
right.
That's one part of the organization.
Right.
I'm sure that the immigration officials that they're showing up to for their appointment probably are not connected with ICE, which is the Immigration and Customs Enforcement arm. So there's two separate things that we're talking about here within the same. So ICE isn't lying to them. ICE is finding them in a convenient place where they know they're going to be, such as a courtroom. When they find out that they're going to be in court, that's why you're seeing all these times where judges and ICE are having these, this back and forth, because it's not really a lie. They're there for the business of the court. They're demanded to appear by the court. The court is not lying to them about any of that. The ICE is just taking the tactical advantage of being where they know they're going to be. So I think the idea of they're being lied to, as far as where they are when they're getting picked up, I think that's, to me, is a bit of a stretch. I think that would be a stretch, because they have to show up for their appointment. Uh, what happens when they do from the enforcement arm? Now we're talking, that's the enforcement arm's problem. They're not being arrested by the immigration official they're coming to see to report to. They're being arrested by the enforcement arm. So you got to kind of separate those two. And that'd be the only thing that I would probably say probably makes it a little bit of a different than, say, like police, who will tell them, criminals, and we see this all the time, it's very effective, where they say, come on in, and they're having a thing where either buying guns or they're going over ticks or something, and then they arrest people who have warrants. I mean, they lied to them because that's their intent. There's a direct lie there, but I think that's a little different than this. I would say.
Well, and the worst part about this, of course, is that it's going to have a chilling effect on people showing up for their court dates. And so if people start missing their court dates, then now they're moved from legal immigrants to illegal immigrants. And that means that they're vulnerable there. It's a really heinous thing to do. And I was reading the story about this kid from the Bronx, or he's from Venezuela originally. But he went to high school, finished his high school in the Bronx. And then he showed up for his hearing. It was supposed to be a routine check-in, and went with his mother, but without a lawyer, and was arrested by ICE. Followed him right out of the courtroom and into the lobby, and without a lawyer with him, ended up relinquishing his legal protections. And now he has been sent, according to his mother, to 4 different states as they shuttle him around the country. And what she's most worried about, of course, is that he gets sent back to Venezuela, where he doesn't have any family left, and where he's going to be basically homeless and on his own in a very, very gang-oriented environment. So these are horrific. I mean, what ICE is doing in this country right now is horrific, and you see more and more people pulling out their phones on social media and confronting them. And I saw one this morning that I thought was great, because this woman wouldn't back down, and they kept threatening to arrest her. And she says, "You're not arresting me," and just kept videotaping them. And one of them actually kind of got right up into her face when she asked to see his badge, and didn't really have a badge. It was like a fake badge. And he ended up backing off, and they got in their car and drove away, while still threatening her. And she said, "I'll be right here, and you're not doing this in my town. You're not coming into our community and doing this." And then some of the other ones where they know that people are going to be, like the farm in Vermont, where they went to a dairy farm and they arrested 8 people there. And what are we going to do without these people to do the farming here, and that kind of thing. And ICE is just out of control. They're constantly arresting the wrong people. They're constantly going after, they're not going after criminals, right? They missed the guy in Colorado whose work visa had expired in March, but ICE, who has been very active in Colorado, somehow missed him, and he ended up throwing Molotov cocktails at people when they were at a protest over the hostages situation in Gaza. And Stephen Miller reportedly pulled all of them back to Washington, D.C., and yelled at them that they weren't doing a good enough job, and that they were now supposed to, he said, "I want you to arrest mothers. I want you to arrest kids and people who've been here for a long time, and students, anybody you can get a hold of, because we've got to get to 3,000 people a day or something like that." and they're only at 600 and I think it was 65 arrests per day. And Stephen Miller wants them to pick up the pace, so he's demanding an almost 500% increase on this. Uh, he's just the lowest of the low, and ICE is horrific. And what we're not seeing is real good results from this, obviously. Um, and people who shouldn't be arrested or getting arrested, and people who they really could go after because they're pushing fentanyl or they're running guns or whatever, human trafficking, those people are not actually getting harassed at all by ICE. It just seems like the ultimate in cowardice.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and again, I go back. We had this discussion before about ICE. Um, to me, I like them to the brown shirts
Yeah.
of old Germany. I do, and Rom, who was the head of the brown shirts, was a horrible human being. There's no doubt about it. But let's face it, the really horrific people were the brown shirts themselves, and how these are Americans. These are American supposedly law enforcement officers. How they can be all right with this, with conducting these things, it really makes me wonder. I mean, you've got to be a special type of piece of crap to listen to somebody say, I want to arrest the mothers. I want to arrest a high schooler. Where does it end? Sixth graders. I mean, where does it end? And the fact that they don't seem to have, like, as we would expect from many law enforcement, a badge, I don't know, identification, and the fact that they don't believe that they have to show that, and that they do back down. And I've read a lot of cases where they have backed down because the bottom line is the people of the community, they're protecting their community from law enforcement. I mean, just let's think about that for a minute. We're protecting our communities from what is supposed to be a legitimate arm of law enforcement. That'd be like, in the 1930s, the people of Chicago protecting, Al Capone from Elliot Ness. I mean, that's not the way it's supposed to work. And this is the state of affairs that the United States is in right now. It's a shame. We have a law enforcement agency who not doesn't run on the law as much as ideology. They are running on an ideology, and it is an ideology that is counter to the ideology that created this country. These people are here. These people are here. Yes, many of them are illegal. Should they be legal? Absolutely. Should we support legal immigration? Absolutely. Do we have a lot of illegal immigration? Absolutely. Why do we? Because the system isn't designed to handle what is coming in the door. And if you don't have a system that can handle what the demand is, Ellis Island isn't good enough anymore. That's why it's shut down. That's why it's shut down. Because it wasn't good enough anymore. It wasn't big enough. The amount of people wanting to come here, it just wasn't big enough. And the fact is that that's okay. If you've got 11 million people trying to get in, create a system. How about, instead of giving tax breaks to the rich people, how about instead of all these, these stupid of the big ugly bill, how about we create an immigration system that works for the United States? Understanding that if we don't do this, we're cutting our own nose off to spite our own face. But to those ICE agents, all I can say is, you know what? It takes a special type of what? You couldn't become a sheriff's deputy? You couldn't get in the FBI? You couldn't get in the Treasury Department, so you had to go to where you had to go. You could, the Secret Service wouldn't take you, so that's where you are. So you can get up in your little fatigues and your bulletproof vests and your guns and stuff like that, and go after people in a restaurant. I mean, come on. people in a restaurant. This is what it is. Oh, and by the way, when the citizenry stands up to you, if they're strong enough and if they're forceful enough, you back down. So instead of tacos, they're ISOs.
So now, what about somebody like this young man who was taken away in front of his classmates right before his high school graduation? And they're saying, well, he's illegal, and since he's illegal, he can't be here. And one thing that Carolyn Levitt says, well, we want people to come here legally, and there has to be a legal, there has to be a legal path to immigration. Yeah. Well, there is, and some people who were here for their citizenship exams or their certificates or whatever it was that they were doing, who are on their way to becoming citizens, were taken from those appointments and deported. So people who are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So what Carolyn Levitt is saying is untrue, which is not a surprise. And so I don't understand what, if, as you say, what Stephen Miller is saying. They want to go from 650 people a day to 3,000 people a day.
Right, and he's telling them they've got to go to the Home Depots, they've got to go to 7-Eleven, they've got to find people who are working, and some of the ICE guys are, to their credit, are saying, look, we were told that we were going after criminals. Tom Homan said we're targeting criminals, and Stephen Miller's like, what? We're targeting criminals? No, we're going after moms and dads and their children and students and people who are working their jobs and people who've been here for 26 years and never committed a crime or any of that, and that's what they're doing. And it's it's an obviously awful situation. Here I will throw in the word fascist. And I do think that that this country is in a really bad place right now.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to paint all of ICE, enforcement agents as with this broad brush, but I think the statement that Scott made was, they probably entered into it with the idea that they were going after these hardened cartel criminals that are out there, and maybe they're being lied to as much as everybody else. Maybe that's what it is. However, I don't know, that high school kid, what cartel do you think he's running, or that mom? Well, I mean, and if they're going to their court date, they're obviously trying to follow the rules. People in cartels don't do that. People in cartels don't go to their court date. They blow up the court. I mean, that's kind of the way it works. They don't go to their immigration appointments thinking that they're advancing their cases because they don't care. So, this is just a matter of trying to get the numbers as opposed to getting the right people. And again, I won't, maybe I am a little harsh on the ICE agents, but the fact is that how about some critical and analytical thinking? When you're picking up a mom with her child who was just at her immigration appointment, use some common sense, guys. Come on. Use a little bit of common sense. This is probably not the leader of a major Venezuelan cartel seeking to destroy the fabric of the United States. And the fact that you show up and then, and it just happened in San Diego, really a popular Italian restaurant that came in and they pretty much tried to take in the whole staff. And the people of San Diego weren't having it. Even the mayor of San Diego said, "No, I won't have this in my city. This isn't going to happen." It looks bad. And as I say, I know we're not talking about all ICE agents, and we don't like to paint with a broad brush. But what you see in the media today basically paints them in a very bad light. When you have cities across the United States standing up against a law enforcement arm, and if that doesn't tell you anything, especially if you're an ICE agent, and then as Scott said, well, you've got Steve Miller basically saying, "Well, I don't care. We want 3,000, and I want moms, I want grandmas, I want grandpas. I mean, if they're in hospice, get them, get them all, just so I can get numbers to make the orange Jesus look good." Some ICE itself has got to probably be just like the populaces of these cities that are standing up to them. They need to say no, no. I don't think this is no. I don't think this is a good idea. Will they lose their job? Sure.
Well, they
But they'll
should
get,
quit.
but well, or they quit, or
They
whatever.
can.
Go
And I
back,
know in
go back to
hard
their day
times,
jobs, because
yeah,
a lot of them are different law enforcement
right,
entities that have been recruited for this specifically,
Right.
and they probably should go back to their day jobs and forget about this, because this is not what it was advertised to be. And
exactly.
Correct.
I saw the story in the really small town in Missouri where they arrested. It's such a small town that everybody knows one another, and they arrested and deported a woman who these people are like, we've known her for 18 years, and we didn't sign up for this, we didn't vote for this, but yeah, you did. This is what you voted for. And again, we're in bad shape right now in this country, and it's deliberate. Not sure that it's in our best interest. That may be in Vladimir Putin's best interest to have us as divided as possibly can be. Um, we're not going to discuss today, I guess, because we're not going to have time to talk about this parade. But maybe next week there's plenty of time to do that. The we're doing stuff that America just doesn't do. And asking people for their papers is just something that we don't do.
Well, you
Yeah.
know what? We have one more, so we could talk about the parade.
Yeah. Well, not only are we divided, but we're also becoming much weaker by deporting people who want to be here and be part of a strong America. So we're depopulating ourselves, and we're already below replacement rate. Um, and I don't care what Elon Musk thinks he's doing with having as many children as he possibly can, with as many women as he possibly can, and JD Vance is a natalist as well. Um, Deporting healthy adults and young people and functioning
Brilliant
mature adults
students.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
and students. I mean, the whole thing is just it's
Counterproductive.
yes, and it's incomprehensible, and it is. I really hate to use the word insane, um,
Go ahead, Brooke. Go.
but
Do it.
to me, insane is a legal term. Um, do you understand what you're doing? And I don't really know if Trump does understand what he's doing. So maybe from the legal definition of insanity, while he's committing the crime, does he understand what he's doing and the consequences of what he's doing? And I don't believe that he actually does understand that. So, I mean, Vance might understand, uh, but I don't think Trump does. So he may actually be legally insane from
Okay.
Okay.
a psychiatric
Maybe
point.
go with that.
So
Seems to show that up.
yeah.
All right.
So thank you to all our listeners one more time. We appreciate your support over the past 4 years now, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Do take care. And I'd
Okay.
like to.
The way Tony Kornheiser signs out of PTI, who says we'll try to do better next time.
Huh? Who? Sorry, I missed that.
It's a sports thing on ESPN. show that I like to watch. A couple of guys talking about sports, and at the end of it, one of them says, "We'll try to do better next time."
Oh,
So that's his sign off.
well, I don't even know if I'll try. I don't want to sound like I'm going to promise something that I can't deliver. Um,